And that's why you should always put down a deposit. What is going on, everybody? This is the Cover Band Confidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You guys may notice that there's a fancy, dancy little enhancement to your podcast experience.
It's pretty good. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed this, but all of those went up today. I went ahead and updated them.
And we're talking about, of course, new art.
New artwork. So Dan and I have been talking about it for a little bit. I don't think it's, a huge mystery that I came up with the original branding out of necessity, and I hated it pretty much since day one. And wanted to find a fun way to zhuzh it up. And thanks to our very generous patrons, we had a little bit of budget to do that. So I reached out to a guy named Chris Wright, who is an Atlanta-based artist who I've been a fan of for a huge period of time, and said, hey, can you make obnoxious-looking artwork for our podcast? He's like, yeah, I can do that. So he did. And what you are seeing now in the podcast platform of your choice, and also in all of our socials and on YouTube, is the fruits of his hard work. Basically, we loved his artwork so much that both Dan and I have commissioned him separately to be like, hey, can you just make a me?
Right. Yeah.
Just a separate me.
Just a
One
separate,
me separately from everybody else.
Just need a me.
So if you want to check out Chris's work, or you want to hit him up for your own stuff, check out chrismakesart.com. His slogan is one of my favorites of all time. His slogan is, if you can dream it, you can pay for it.
Genius.
Which is just an amazing way to sell yourself.
It is. I'll tell you.
We've been having a lot of fun just like talking back and forth about stuff. Yeah. Just a good dude.
He's a good dude. I've now been talking to him a little bit about the Just Me version, and yeah, super good dude. I really enjoy, by the way, that I'm a patron of some people on Patreon, and I like just abstractly supporting them. But I enjoy here that there is a concrete piece of output that they've funded for us. I like being able to say, look, you bought this. And it's going to be, we got, a version of it that's right for the group header, and a version for the page header, and a version for YouTube, and like all of the places you need art, we had them build just the right sizes. And so, it's going to be a whole big overhaul of our look. Yeah.
And I feel like it's much more true to like, the who we are.
Yep.
And like our branding and stuff. I will say this for all of you who are just now seeing this, the original version had an iPad in the shot. Yeah. And I thought it was genius, but Dan was like, I'm not so sure.
And then all the patrons came down hard on it. So yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was like the perfect way to just like kind of shake the fist at all of the all the people out there. But
I think we sucker the people in, and then we hit them with the iPads once they're listening.
Yeah. Cooler heads prevailed for sure.
Yeah.
So, all that being said, how was your week going?
My week's been good. I've not done much. I have now organized. So I've been playing this acoustic trivia thing, alternating weeks at two different locations of the same taproom company, right? One here in Greensboro and one in Lexington, North Carolina, just about half an hour south of here. And the person who books in the Greensboro taproom just changed, and this has just been a revolving door. This seat has not been occupied for more than 3 months, I think.
Yeah, and this has been like the year where service positions are going to turn over quite a bit.
Yeah, people are coming in and out of the business. Absolutely.
Very chaotic.
So the thing apparently the new guy was charged with was stability, and that's just not. I mean, that is a fool's errand in terms of booking music. That's, you're going to have some people who are reliable and really deliver, but even my really great nights, which were some of the best things that they've done in that tap room, some of them were freaking massive, and some of them had like 8 people. And that's just the nature of it, right? So his move, what he offered, was to bust me down to one night a month and then like really market it well. And I'm game. It's fine. Okay. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Good. Because the ones in Lexington have been bugging me to go every week forever. So that's what we're doing. Now I'm in Lexington every week, and then once a month in Greensboro, which is fine. And then the former manager there, the first turn of that revolving door, is opening his own thing just down the street on his own license, his own lease, his own business. And the acoustic duo is playing his grand opening. So that got booked today, and that's all official. And so, yeah, it's good. It's good. So things are moving. And, you know, our case numbers here are starting to get back to sort of early December levels to where I'm comfortable being out in public again. Not that after 3 vaccines and actually having COVID, I wasn't probably already safe, but still, it just felt weird.
Sure.
And so now that's not feeling so weird anymore. And I'm kind of feeling like maybe we can get back to business.
Okay.
So that's my week. What have you been up to?
So this past week has been busy from an inquiry standpoint. I've been doing a lot of advancing in, I kind of like mentioned it last week that like there's been a lot of like, hey, I need you for this, never mind. Hey, I need you for this, never mind. Well, the funny thing is that one of the things that was like, this is a sure thing has completely fallen through. And one of those, oh wait, never minds has come back around and is now back in play. So
how about that?
We're just kind of riding the wave. You know, this is a it's a weird season to be confirming stuff, but we're just trying to be as flexible as we can. Our next actual like event is prepping for a live band karaoke deal at the beginning of March, which is more like the end of February. So we're kind of in the throes of that. In the midst of that, an energy drink company approached me about bringing the pop punk group in for something that they're doing and doing some promo there. So that all got confirmed today.
That's good.
And that's happening in 2 weeks.
Is there a sponsorship opportunity there?
It kind of is. They're going to be pressing all of this on their channels. And the kind of the crux of the situation was that they wanted initially to reach out to members only. They didn't have a whole lot to offer as far as like, I mean, that's an established group that doesn't really need a lot of push out in the marketplace. But Warped did. And it was kind of like I was able to kind of convince them that like, hey, this is like a younger, more receptive audience. Maybe this is like an angle to take. And in exchange, as opposed to doing something for, you know, cash and prizes, they've got a facility that is very close to my house that I am interested in potentially using for some stuff for, you know, this channel.
Cool.
Maybe as a place to do in-person, in-town interview stuff.
Sweet.
And they've got the infrastructure to do that kind of thing. So we're just kind of hammering out the specifics. And it's just kind of one of those random irons in the fire that I've been kind of pursuing, but not like getting my hopes up. But it looks like things are kind of moving. So I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Awesome.
And we haven't mentioned this on the podcast before, but I was approached by the guy who does Couch Riffs, the YouTube channel and the podcast, about doing a collaboration with them. And I'm going to be providing vocals for one of their upcoming covers. And I don't know if there's going to be some sort of cross-pollination with their podcast, whatever.
Cool.
All that stuff's still up in the air, but it's been kind of cool. Like, we've been doing a lot of the content-y, creation-y things for a while now, and it's starting to feel like we've got maybe just a little bit of wind to our backs, and some cool stuff is kind of materializing. So
awesome.
Yeah, and you know, talking about the topic we wanted to talk about this week, there is an accompanying video that'll be out on YouTube tomorrow. It is clocking in at just under 10 minutes, which is the longest scripted thing I have ever done.
Nice.
And my computer is furious, but we are optimistic that it's going to
it will encode it and you'll be good to go. And so how much does the length of the scripted piece dramatically impact your production effort, like the labor of it? How does that shake out?
It's more of a thing where I've been trying different workflows. And again, this is inside baseball a little bit, but I want to be able to shoot in 4K, and 4K being exponentially larger than 1080 means that the files are exponentially larger, and it just takes longer for the processing and the rendering and all of that. And I just got a notification that my my hard drive is full. And so I'm in the process of moving things around so that I can finish doing that. The segment's is like edited, like the beginning, middle, and end have been determined. There's just, titles and additional zhuzhy graphic-y things that need to be added. So.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's the main topic of this week, and something that I've been talking about a lot. We've definitely been in the mental health kind of lane for a couple of weeks, and that makes sense because things have been a little chaotic in my life. But at least I can say I know I had some people reach out and say, "Hey man, are you okay?" It's like, "Yes, I'm fine." All the things that have been a little out of whack have kind of realigned themselves. So I am back amongst the living and a little less distracted. So this week though is another one of those topics, and I think it's something that all of us could totally relate to, whether we have been guilty of doing them or been privy to bad activity or bad actors in our musician experience.
Yep, let's jump into it.
All right. So this week, the video topic on YouTube is the top 5 toxic mindsets of musicians. But since this is more of a long form conversation, I figure we just kind of go a little bit wider than that. So earlier this week on TikTok, I was just like, "Hey musicians, what do you consider a toxic mindset that plagues the musician community?" And people were not bashful. There was a lot to work with. I was not in danger of having too little information to provide. So we as musicians definitely have a bad reputation in some circumstances. We are not always the easiest people to get along with.
No.
And I think we've all definitely been in a situation where things have been difficult. You've had a rough green room hang, where you've had somebody who has just been less than pleasant to be around. So we wanted to kind of call that out, kind of have that conversation, because I think the real important thing, the thing that we really need to focus on, is how we can better ourselves and not be those people. And hopefully when we get to the end of the conversation, we can kind of wrap up why that would be so important.
Yeah.
Now, before we get fully into that whole thing, I did want to take an opportunity to share some good things. One of them being a very nice review that was left on our page.
Excellent.
And I'm just trying to find how to get to it because, of course, in the midst of it, things are always harder to find.
Sure.
And of course, the reviews don't show up on the thing that I'm looking at, and I can't look at the other thing because I'm using it for my, what's it called? For my camera. So we'll just cut all of this out.
2630.
Jeez Louise. Because I literally just saw it as we were coming in. Is it thundering? Dude, it's like 70 degrees where we are.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
No, it doesn't.
Players only love you when they're playing.
Weeman.
They will.
Where is the goddamn? Like, it keeps trying to be like, "Hey, I'm the app." Like, no, I don't want you to open it.
It's Dora the Explorer. I'm the app. I'm the app. I'm the app.
Yep. Where's the goddamn? Here we go. All right, here we go. So I wanted to take an opportunity to share a review that was left on the Apple Podcast application. If you want to hear your band shouted out on the podcast, the easiest way to do that is leave a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice, which now, thankfully, includes Spotify. So if you haven't done it already, please go and give us a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate it. This one is a 5-star review. It was sent on Saturday from RJM Base 76. Says, "Top notch. I am an avid regular listener. These guys know their stuff, and the content is both entertaining and informative.
Hey,
if you're a cover band musician, this podcast is a must listen. and that's from our buddy these are the guys from Level Up, our buddies from New York.
Excellent.
So very big thanks to the guys from Level Up for the kind words. Once again, if you want to hear your name shouted out on the podcast, the easiest thing to do is to leave a review. So please go and do that. That being said, let's get back to the subject at hand, which is
I had you
toxic
off screen.
mindsets.
Just tee it up one more time. I had you off screen for a second there.
All right, with that being said, let's get back into the topic, which is, of course, toxic mindsets of musicians and what you can do to fix it. Do you have any thoughts about this, Dan?
I think that, I think it's really easy to fall into unhealthy mental patterns. I think that in a certain level, those are adaptive, they are survival based, and it's understandable. That doesn't mean that they are good or that you should that you wouldn't be better off if you confronted them in yourself. So if I want to hold these, the word toxic is pretty toxic. If you hear yourself in any of this, feeling bad is probably not a very useful response to that. But sort of introspection, thinking, investigation, that'd be something we'd like to be prompting here in this podcast. So I think I'd just say hold this next conversation a little bit lightly.
Yeah, and thinking about words like problematic or unhealthy, we were just trying to save some syllables. That's all.
Yeah.
Toxic versus unhealthy or problematic.
Right.
Right. You dropping a couple.
Right.
So yeah, one of the things that I remember hearing about anxiety, which is a thing that I have issues with, is that it's a good thing. It was there and it's been there for like thousands of years. Like it was the thing that made sure that like your ancestors didn't get eaten by saber-toothed tigers and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And
so it's important. The problem is that the prevalence of saber-toothed tigers in your suburban neighborhood has diminished significantly, and those skills and or being equipped with that kind of awareness doesn't necessarily benefit you the same way.
Right,
so
right, but it's the same. It's the same pattern detection and threat detection that kept our ancestors alive, so that you can kind of honor it as that, right? That's
indeed,
that's a thing.
So the first one that I wanted to bring up is I'm going to say unhealthy competition.
Okay.
Now, have you experienced that in your local scene?
There are a couple of instances of it that I've run across. I would say my scene is generally pretty supportive, but especially when certain personalities have clashed, there has been some tension between, my booking is mine and I'm not going to help you get in there or whatever.
Yeah.
I would say that's not something that is real prevalent around here, but I certainly hear of it.
Yeah. What would you consider the line in the sand between healthy competition and unhealthy competition?
Look, I think if your competitive attitude is founded in something other than a rising tide floats all boats, then it's probably not doing you any favors. If for you, some other band getting a gig, if what that means is you didn't get that gig, that's not great.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. That's on the list too.
Is it? All right. Well,
yeah.
I think that I've never seen anybody around here sabotage another group exactly. I've seen some poaching of band members.
Yeah.
That's a thing. Which I don't know if they're poachable. As somebody who manages people in my day job, if you can take my people from me, you probably deserve them. I've failed them in some way.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel about my band members too. If they're not happy doing this, then it's time for me to ask why, and they deserve to go be somewhere they're going to be happy. So
yeah.
So that's I don't know. I say that because I used the word poaching and I kind of didn't like it when it came out of my mouth there. We had there was a venue that is pretty prominent around here that did a they were trying to fill a hole in their calendar, I think, and they posted this thing was like, get post on your band's page and get the most Facebook likes to win this booking this particular night.
Yeah.
And we went all in. Like, I went for it. I emailed all of my content, my whole list. Like, I emailed everybody. And then the band that I had left about 6 months earlier piled on and started doing the same thing. And the two of us were competing for this. And it was explicitly a competition. But the way they came after us to take it, that felt a little personal. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
We ended up winning that, and they got booked for the following week. That, like, the two of us were the only ones playing. Kind of like other people posted and got a couple dozen likes, and we both were in the like many hundreds. And so the venue put us both on, and neither of us have gotten on their regular calendar since then. Which was what we were hoping to parlay that into.
Right.
That didn't feel great. It was satisfying to have won it, but it didn't. The interpersonalness of it was not terrific.
Bit of a hollow victory, maybe.
Satisfying, but in a way that doesn't really speak to my soul.
Okay.
It satisfied something that I don't really like about myself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So there are ways of where competition is a good thing. Going and seeing a group that inspires you to do things.
Absolutely.
Or you see some stuff that they're doing and you're like, man, we could implement this particular part of their show into our show to make our show better.
Yeah.
But I definitely have heard stories where there are bands in our scene where the band leader didn't want his guys playing with other groups, and so he would like hold fake dates.
Ooh.
So that they couldn't book them, and then he would like cancel them at the last minute. That kind of thing.
It's gross.
There's a lot of those kinds of examples out there. It's not great.
It's not great.
And ultimately you should be a person who builds people up and congratulates them when they're successful. It'll make you look better overall. Even if you don't necessarily feel it in the moment, it takes very little effort to be happy for someone else.
Yeah. And it actually feels better. So
yeah,
it's a better thing overall.
For sure.
Yeah.
So try and find ways for things that would initially make you feel jealous, to feel motivating instead.
Yeah.
That would be my lesson there.
Yeah. And I think, some other, when you're on the far side of that and you, I have some people friends on Facebook who have been in bands that have been really inspiring to me locally, really, really, really killer players who, and who I really looked up to when I was starting to band lead and starting to have all that stuff happen, who I'm now, like, we have a little bit of a back channel. I'm kind of in the in-group about that with some of those guys.
Yeah.
And that's like the other side of the competition. Like, I've competed enough to earn a seat at the table in that conversation, and it's a real honor. And I did it. Yeah. I did it honorably, right? I didn't take anything from anybody to make that happen. And
right.
And it's a thing that I think from the jealous, petty, zero-sum game view of competition, it's hard to see that as the end game, but it's pretty great to have played it well and gotten there. So
to kind of like piggyback off of that and what you had said earlier, I would say that the next thing that we struggle with a lot in just kind of the music community is scarcity mindset, which we talk about a lot, don't we?
We do. It's been a while, but
we talk about the opposite of the scarcity mindset. But you know, if you, the thing that's been really great is like, I've sent you a couple of emails and we've been getting them recently, is that we've got a lot of people who've just kind of like stumbled onto our stuff from the very first time. And they're like, holy hell, there's like almost 200 episodes that I've got to like catch up to.
Yeah.
So this is for those folks and for anybody who could use a refresher. So the Yeti behind a scarcity mindset is that the idea that if somebody else in your scene has or gets something, they are taking it directly away from you. That's kind of what that feels like internally when you are operating from a scarcity mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Or at least them booking that gig means I didn't get to book that gig, and that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, yeah, they make more money than I do. They make more money than my band does. That's a bad thing. Or they get to do the thing that I want to do, and that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you shouldn't feel envious or, you know, jealous of, you know, people who get killer gigs that, you know, they've got better connections and stuff. But there's that, and you can feel that in the moment, kind of let it wash over you. But the next part of your thought process should be, well, how do I do that?
Right.
And be resourceful and not necessarily just dwell on the negativity about it. You know,
I had
the sadness, you know?
Yeah. I had a creative writing teacher in college who, he had a thing that he called the jealousy test. It's like when he read something, if he was jealous of it, that meant it was really good. Like, yeah, his jealousy was his test for like, wow, that's really good work. And it didn't mean anything beyond that for him.
Yeah, it can be just a passing, fleeting moment, and then, you know, you can choose to be productive about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't really talk so much about scarcity mindset, but we do talk a lot about abundance mindset, which, you know, is the antithesis of the other. So the main idea behind that is that, yeah, somebody may have gotten a cool opportunity, but that doesn't mean that you won't have a cool opportunity, and that your band or your project can't do something that other bands can't do. And that ultimately, if there are groups that are ahead of you, kind of further along in their journey, or, you know, bigger in popularity in your market, ultimately they're raising the value of live music in your town. That's
Bingo.
A good thing. You want people in front of you to set those standards for what, you know, what bands should cost and what bands should make. So
that's right. And opportunity breeds opportunity. The more, you know, your scene is alive and vibrant and people are getting hired and playing and paid and all of that, like that just builds opportunity for everybody. So there's really nothing to be jealous of. If somebody else has some really cool thing going on, embrace it, because it literally, they're paving the way for you.
Absolutely. And so, like I said, don't mistake the you shouldn't feel envious when cool things happen for other bands, because it's kind of unavoidable. But don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Or don't have it lead you into actions that are destructive or negative or take away from somebody else's, you know, experience or joy or celebration. You know, celebrate with them. You can be jealous and celebrate with them. Yeah.
Those aren't mutually exclusive.
At all.
You can do both simultaneously for sure. That's been field tested and approved. At least in my life for sure.
Even if like at the bar you're like, dude, I want to kill you. This is awesome. Good. That's amazing. Like damn
it, I wish I had gotten that.
Fully like,
man, good for you.
Dying of jealousy. This is the best thing that could ever happen. Go you. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So those kind of seem to be the things that you deal with a lot, like in the room, like when you're like dealing with people. This next one that came up is one of the more of those like online things, but you're still going to deal with it a little bit in meat space, which is the binary thinking. Now, are you familiar with that?
Say some more about what you mean by that.
So again, I've had to do my research this week. The concept of binary thinking is making complex concepts, problems, and ideas, in simplifying them in a way that makes them an either or scenario, when in reality they're not.
this is you and I are both Americans. We don't have any, we don't do that. What are you talking about?
The funny thing, the first thing that popped into my head was Mike Myers from SNL going, if it's not Scottish, it's crap.
Yeah, right.
Like that's binary thinking.
Yeah.
Is it Scottish? No. Well, it's crap then.
Then it's crap. If it's not Scottish.
But yeah, you know, a lot of times people might take the term as elitism or gatekeeping. I feel like those are slightly different. This one is kind of more, it's literally like if it's not this, it's that. It's this rigid thought structure kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, the interview, that conversation I had with Neil P. from formerly of Reagan Youth was talking a lot about rigid thought structures. It's very prevalent in the punk hardcore DIY community. It's like, you know, you have to do this or you're not punk. You have to play these many shows or you're not a real musician. It's a real musician thing that really you have to meet these criteria.
Is that the source also of rejecting overplayed songs?
I think so. Yeah. If a song is popular, it can't be good.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of those kind of defeatist attitudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other things that like I kind of used as examples are, oh, you can't play heavy metal on a Telecaster, or you can't play country music on an Explorer. Like things that like this thing has to be this way or it's not the thing I think it is.
Right.
The purist, you know, approach.
Right.
Whereas like music is very much a is it subjective or objective? This is me being
subjective. It's something that the subject interprets, and
it's very much a subjective
personal interpretation and experience. And yeah, totally.
Yeah. So don't do that. Kind of
and if you do, you're a jerk.
Yeah, you're a jerk. Actually, I prefer the English term. You're a bell end. I don't exactly understand well,
it's an anatomical reference. It's
yeah. It has to be because I mean, yeah,
no, it is.
Calling somebody a knob.
Exactly. That's what. Yes. That's yeah.
I just love the like bell end.
I know. I enjoy it too.
Love it.
I'm with you.
They have such a way with words.
True. They invented them.
Yep. So yeah, binary thinking. Don't do it.
Don't do it. And if you do, you're terrible.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So kind of dovetailing the binary thinking is the gatekeeping. We talk a lot about the gatekeeping in like online culturally guitar-y things, but have you been subjected to that kind of criticism ever?
Well, I mean, in the cover band world, I think there's still this phenomenon of like, I'm too cool for certain songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you're gonna be that band, if you're gonna be that dad band who plays Mustang Sally, like I'm out. I'm too good for that.
Right.
You're not, by the way, but that's part of it. And then the other thing, and the guitar community is so terrible about this. You know, you see somebody. Are you on Our Guitars or Guitar Players on Reddit?
I've been banned from Our Guitar. I'm not allowed to post there.
Well, you're better off. Because it's constant. It's full of people like, how do I get faster? I just need to get faster. I want to be faster at guitar. I want to be faster. Faster is what I want.
Yep.
And I've quit saying, like, consider setting a goal called being more musical. Consider, listening to some people who aren't about blistering speed, but are about tasty note choices. Mm-hmm. And there's not much uptake on that concept in the guitar community in general. I think it's mostly about technical skill and not really about the fact that it's an art doesn't seem clear to guitarists.
No, it's a sport.
It's a sport.
Just like we said, music is a competition. There's a governing body.
The internet
the mandatory
is the governing
drug
body.
testing. Mandatory drug testing is.
And you have to test positive.
Yes,
you have to mandatorily test positive for drugs.
Performance enhancing drugs.
You have to.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the idea that like, well, I've definitely stepped in it on purpose on multiple occasions, talking about how the online guitar community doesn't care for people or musicians who don't look and think and act like the majority does,
and be gendered.
and yeah, it's not great.
It's not great.
And so if you the other thing about gatekeeping is that it's basically like, it's, if we're talking about toxic mindsets, it's one that is like intentionally weaponized against other people.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I started playing guitar because I was a weird little kid, and guitar and in like that community felt like this like group of misfits, these outcasts that kind of welcomed me with open arms.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have done as a 11 or 12-year-old guitar player if I had posted a video of myself just like trying and then getting like slayed.
Yeah.
With crappy internet comments.
But I mean, you see it happen all the time. All the time.
It's kind of the default mode.
Yeah.
Of that whole situation.
Yeah.
So
no, listen,
it just bumps me out.
Yeah, I'm right with you. Being a weirdo who played guitar in public and played, created bands and made that kind of thing. That was my high school survival strategy. Like I had nothing else going for me, and I'm glad there wasn't a venue for me to be publicly judged the way there is now, because it's brutal. It's brutal. There was somebody who posted a video a couple of days ago on our guitar that was I can't remember what it was playing, but it was a finger style arrangement of something that he found somewhere, and hey, what do you think? Feedback, real feedback. And I was one of the early, I think I was among the first people to see it. I happened upon it right after he posted it, and like the first thing that I want to say was, bro, tune your guitar. Cause yikes. But like, I stopped myself and it's like, wow, great arrangement. I can tell you really worked. That, you're headed somewhere. This is good. First thing, tune your guitar. You'll be like 80% better if you do. Second thing, bust yourself down to a metronome, slow it down by 4 times and get clean at a 4th speed. And that's going to help a lot. And, but, and then build it back up from there and whatever. But like, and then I watch the comments pile on like, dude, you suck at tuning guitars and you should, if you can't tune a guitar, why bother? It's like, so hard to be in the world right now anyway. Like, why do we have to add all of this? How do why do we have to add all this judgment to somebody who's like putting their toe in some creative waters and trying to discover something, it sucks.
It does suck. And the funny thing is that like after compiling this list, and I want to say, so like we did 5, but like there's a lot of them. So some of the ones that we didn't mention: antagonism towards your audience, your opinion is the audience opinion, entitlement, diva / egotistical behavior. The problem is that you take all of those, and even the ones that we kind of already talked about, and you can just kind of mush them in together into one thing. And really, like, the list that we just came up with is literally just like probably just like one thing and one thing in general.
Yeah.
And that, my friends, is insecurity. That's really the crux of the issue.
Yeah.
Is people who are not sure about themselves, who want to pretend like they are, so they project this air of superiority or whatever as a way to mask the fact that they don't feel that way about themselves.
Yeah. It's the only reason I need to turn it back on anyone else is because it takes the attention off me.
For sure.
Yeah.
In doing the research for the video, I found an article by Psychology Today, and it was 4 things that insecure people do all the time. You ready for this? This sounds like the worst green room hang of all time, and I've definitely been there. Somebody who makes other people feel bad or feel less than by the way that they talk. Someone who has to constantly talk about their accomplishments and achievements. people who constantly name drop or humble brag, and people who constantly complain about the conditions of their current situation and how their standards are so much higher.
Wow.
I mean, how many times have you sat in a gig with a person like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like it is the blueprint of like the worst person on the gig. Like, bar none.
Yeah. That's the guy you don't ask back.
Absolutely. And I think that's really ultimately the point, is that people who act that way, they give other musicians a bad reputation, and they don't get asked back. The one thing that I have ultimately tried to do more than anything is to not be that guy.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel like the internal pull to do those things, especially when I'm like, I don't know the people I've worked with before, or like I feel kind of out of my depth, or kind of people are more competent than I am. And it's just like, it does take like an active mental push to be like, just be quiet.
Yeah.
You can just be the invisible person. And honestly, that's probably what they want.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that like, I know tons of players who have are much better players and more competent musicians than I am, that don't get the phone calls that I get, just because I have really actively worked on not being insufferable at gigs.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I know that is that I have 100% been that person.
Right.
In certain circumstances.
Right. Yeah. I'm working on, sort of my flavor of that I'm working on in my life right now is just sort of internalizing. It's better to listen than to talk right now.
Yep. It's better to not say something and appear foolish than to open your mouth and confirm it to be true.
Yeah.
I think I said that right.
Yeah.
It sounded right.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah. Insecurity is just one of those things that like we are insecure people by nature. We're a tribe of humans who have decided that our value and our worth should be put in the hands of strangers. And that is how we determine
they're gonna clap or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's fair to say that probably people are either insecure out loud or lying about it.
Yep.
People. I'm not talking about musicians.
Sure. But, especially with such a with an art form that is so deliberately collaborative, it is
in public.
Yeah. It is so much more problematic.
Yeah, for sure.
When people are like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, this is not necessarily an indictment on those who have done so or who do it currently. It's more of a, hey, like, people notice this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be viewed as a person like that, then these are the things you need to be aware of.
Yeah. And look, this could be a wake-up call for you, Mr. or Mrs. Listener, that there's behavior that you exhibit that needs considering. It could be a wake-up call for you, Mr. or Mrs. band member, that there's somebody in your orbit who, like, what do? You reach out and say, are you okay? Maybe you ultimately decide whether you want to participate with that person. Nobody says you have to participate with anyone. So
what I'm going to make a bold statement.
Let's hear it.
I think that as musicians, we should put an equal amount of time into the work that we need to do in order to be able to play the music that we need to perform, and our mental health.
I like it.
And if you think that seems like an audacious thing to say, or you're kind of going, well, why would I go to all of that trouble or spend time on something that, makes me less insecure or whatever, as I would the thing that literally puts money in my pocket, right? But I would say this: do you think, or have you ever considered that being a better person might give you better gigs?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even if it doesn't, even if you didn't believe that connection to be valid, when you go to bed at night, who do you want to have been that day?
Yep.
And I think the other thing of it is, when I look back at times in my life when insecurity has really run me, it's never seemed like the insecurity was optional.
Right.
It hasn't ever seemed like there was a clear, it's just seemed like that's how it is.
Right.
Right. So I think that's the other thing to acknowledge is like, it actually is one possible way to be. That's all. It's not a right or wrong way to be necessarily. It's just one possible way.
And it's 100% a discipline. It's a thing that you can practice.
For sure. Yeah.
And the real crux of the issue is shut up. Show up to the gig, do the thing you're supposed to do, and just shut up.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
Yeah, get the job done. Get out.
You can be insecure. You can feel anxious. You can do all of those things. Yeah. But if you do it quietly to yourself, you might have fooled everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that in my professional sphere, product management is what I do for a living during the day. And it is when you scratch the surface of a product manager, you find, and you don't have to go deep before you find imposter syndrome. It's there under each and every one of us because the discipline is not well defined and it's different in every organization and it's a very visible job. And so there have been times I've been plagued by it in my work. And what I've found there is to do is to pretend I'm not.
Yeah.
Just don't let that come out my mouth.
Well, that's the funny thing is that like the concept of imposter syndrome is like, well, I'm just going to pretend when you are in fact pretending.
Yeah. And by the way, guess what? We all are.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Like Dan and I have literally looked in each other's faces for the past 3+ years, nearly 200 episodes, talking about things about finding success. And you could throw a cat in any direction and hit another musician who are more successful than we are.
Absolutely.
But there are lots of other people who, don't know the things that we know that have benefited from this. And, we talk to people all the time who are like, I'm just glad that somebody was willing to share what they knew. Yeah.
Yeah. And we said we'd be the ones who put ourselves on mic and talked.
Yeah. And we will be the ones, to hold up scrutiny based on that. So there's not too much to say about that. It's a choice that you make. And I feel like an imposter all the time. But I know that even if I say something and it's wrong, or I try something and I fall on my face, like even that can be helpful to somebody else. So,
well, and to you, I mean, the point of all of that is to learn. So
I've learned a hell of a lot in the past 3 years.
Yeah. Yes.
For sure. So, I hope that over the next couple of weeks we can get back into playing shows and talking about other things. But I felt that given the like deluge of responses I got when I posted the initial question, that was probably something we needed to talk about.
Yeah.
And if you want a more condensed version of that, it'll be up on the YouTubes on Friday. So
cool.
So there you have it. Toxic behaviors in musicians. Stop it. Don't do it.
Knock it off.
Work 100%. Well, that was awesome.
Yeah.
It was a fun convo. So if there were any toxic mindsets or attitudes that we forgot, you should absolutely let us know. Email us, coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. Let us know what your picks might be. Also, just if you've got cool things going on and you wanted to share it, do that too. Tag us on social media, hit us up on the email, go to the group, do whatever you got to do. We would just as soon share in your successes than wallow in the fact that we're just, sitting at our houses until things warm up for a little bit.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got for this week.
Me too.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We're closing in on 200 episodes. Dan keeps going like, hey, we need to plan something.
We do.
I have
something.
If we were to do something for a 200th episode, what should we do?
Ooh,
email us, coverandconfidential@gmail.com, because I am running out of ideas.
Well done.
I'm saying, we are so open to feedback.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Anybody you want us to interview or?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I've definitely reached out to some folks, and there's some interesting stuff out there. I just don't know if 200. I mean, it's a round number. It's got zeros in it and everything.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see.
We'll have to see. Our last big round number like that, we had a crossover with Gig Gab, and that was awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
So
I got some feelers out. Just
all right.
Things aren't necessarily moving. I don't have anything to speak of as of yet.
It'll come when it comes.
It's true. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing well out there and that things are picking back up for you. We're kind of all looking at things down the pipeline for, a couple weeks from now. And we'll all be back out there doing the thing and making the money and having a good time. So Thanks for tuning in. If you want to support the podcast, you can do that a number of ways, but we'll go ahead and let Adam Moskowitz for now talk about it. We've had some conversations on the Patreon. Jada was like, nothing against Adam.
No, Adam started it. Adam said, who's going to follow me up here? It's been me for a long time. We need a new bumper.
He's like, I'm ready to pass the torch.
Yeah, it's good.
So we're gonna let him do that, and hopefully you'll hear a new bumper in the near future.
Yep.
Otherwise, thanks for your support. Love you guys. Be well. Play some stuff. From Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
From Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You've been listening to the Cover Band Confidential podcast for the week of February 4th, 2022. Have an awesome week.